Harry Zane, and this is 20 Minutes, a brand new video magazine from APAC, the local TV channel for Ayer. It's a show by and for the people of Ayer and the Neshoba region. 20 Minutes will keep you up to date and informed on culture, government, and other happenings that we think you ought to know about. In this, our inaugural show, we've got an agenda of exceptional, locally based stories to report. First, we've got a story about a company right here in Ayer that began way back in the Industrial Revolution and today is turning out products that have been acclaimed by chefs and culinary tradespeople all over the world. Then we'll bring you a story about our federal, state, and local public safety professionals and how they keep the freight and commuter rail facilities that run through our town safe and smooth running. And we have a couple of interesting items in between. But first, let's hear from Town Administrator Robert Pontrion about what's been happening around town this past month.
Good afternoon. Here's what's been happening in Ayer for the month of March. A recent oil spill on February 24th at the Page Hilltop School is actively and successfully being cleaned up by DEP at no cost to the town. With the July 1st deadline for statewide retail marijuana sales fast approaching, on October 2016, town meeting set the number of retail licenses to 1. Town meeting will be asked this spring to authorize a 3% tax on all retail marijuana sales. This year's annual town meeting will take place on Monday, May 14th at 7 p.m. in the auditorium of the high school. The deadline for citizens' petitions and warrant articles is Friday, April 13th. The town's local election will take place on Monday, April 23rd at Town Hall. For more information, please check the town's website.
Thanks so much, Robert. You know, few people realize how widely recognized are some of the businesses we have right here in Ayer. And to put a somewhat finer point on that proposition, we went down to Groton Harvard Road near the railroad tracks. Well, let's take a look at what we found. When Mark Furman and Mimi Junkins bought R. Murphy knives from Doug Bethke in 2009, the married couple thought they were just buying a stable little retirement investment. Little did they suspect they'd fall in love with the company and its role in the knife and cutlery industry, and along the way, turned the building by the railroad tracks into what Edible Boston magazine called the little company that could. We took our crew down to the 167-year-old company several weeks ago to find out how knives made in Ayer have become the toast of America's Test Kitchen, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and even the Oscars. You heard right. The people who packed the giveaway swag bags at the Oscars requested and received complimentary oyster knives from the little company that could. So we went down to Groton Harvard Road by the rail crossing and asked Mimi and Mark how they described their venture, which they undertook when most married couples are contemplating retirement.
I'll tell you the way one journalist put it. A 60-something couple buys an 1850s knife manufacturing company at the height of the recession, repositions the company, and lands in Hollywood.
A great story.
Pretty much we wanted to revive the company. Our idea was to take a business proposition and grow it into a business that would help bring manufacturing back in the U.S., at least our share of it.
And I think we calculated the other day that you produce about 1,000 knives a day. Does that sound right?
About right. 250,000+ a year.
How did the America's Test Kitchen piece come out?
They actually called another knife company who referred them to us, and I got a call one afternoon from America's Test Kitchen, and they just really wanted to get some information about oyster knives and what's a good way to test them and what type of knives should they use in the test. And after about 45 minutes of conversation, I asked, so when are we going to be in the test? And I was informed at that point that we weren't going to be in it at all. And that was basically because you have to be a retailer, you have to sell to the public, which we did. So I let them know we sell to the public and we would love to be in the test. So after consulting the editor, they agreed to have us in the test, and the rest is history.
And you won.
We won.
And since it's been in Ayer, who are the owners of the company been?
Well, the Maxant family, who are still in Ayer, bought it from the Murphys, and the Bethke family from Concord bought it from the Maxants, and then we bought it from the Bethke family.
And that was Doug Bethke, the race car.
Yes,
Right,
Doug
right.
Bethke of race car fame.
And he had R. Murphy knives on the front of his,
Right.
on the front of
It
his
was
car.
Corvette, yes.
Okay. What do you attribute the success to?
So we do have some state-of-the-art computer-controlled equipment, but most of it is very hands-on. The big change for this company and the big change in our revenue source was essentially a marketing effort and a shift towards consumer products, which at the time we bought the company was almost non-existent. So I'd say Mimi and our daughter Emma's marketing efforts changed that focus. Well, my background is engineering, but my career was construction. And in fact, that was Mimi's career as well. So we were both out there essentially being carpenters, and then went into general contracting, and that was the bulk of the career experience when we bought the company.
So you're a husband and wife team before you came here.
We were before as well.
And you're what, about a couple dozen employees?
When we bought the company, it was quite a few less. It was probably about half. And we were running it about 3-4 days a week. It wasn't full-time either.
It's height of the recession.
Yeah. Yeah. Why?
Yeah, let's not
Yeah,
forget the
that's,
recession.
yeah, right.
Why did you do that
Not-
in the height of the recession?
That's,
It seemed like a good idea.
At the
What
time.
Apparently
what
it was.
better answer is there? There wasn't a lot of businesses that were thriving at that point, and it was a great business opportunity. We recognized the company had value, and we thought we would be able to turn it around. That was the impetus for it
Yeah.
all.
but it wasn't rough. It was, like I think I told you this, at times it felt like a 160-some-year-old startup, you know, getting
Sure.
the name back out there and, you know, just all that. It was,
Well, you
wasn't
got,
easy.
The technology that we have is dated. Grinding machines from the 1970s and early 1980s. We have presses that date back to the 1930s and other equipment that's that old. We're keeping our employees hands-on with all that product.
Gives us control too.
But what we try to do is blend some contemporary thinking and contemporary measures to make the process that is 50 and 60 and 70 years old more accurate, more precise, and more consistent. And we do that with computers, but still maintain the hands-on process. One of the reasons we bought this company was because it was a business opportunity, and that changed very early on as we fell in love with the story and we fell in love with the product. But one of the other important factors was that our employees could actually make something they can feel good about. So the notion of automating this process takes away from that. So the employees are not machine feeders. They're not tenders of robots. They actually manufacture and hand manufacture the product. So it gives them an opportunity to take pride in what they make.
So there you have it. World famous knives from Ayer to the red carpet and the kitchens of some of the country's top restaurants and food prep operations. For more about Murphy Knives, learn how they actually make knives by visiting the APAC website and looking for Murphy Knives Part 2 under featured programs on the site dashboard. And by the way, before the next time you complain about your property taxes, remember that companies in Ayer pay taxes at a higher rate than residential taxpayers. So be thankful for the $16,000 that Murphy's Little Building paid in taxes last year. And now just a few words about APAC, the organization that makes possible this and many other broadcasts over this and other local channels. APAC is not part of town government. It is actually a 501c3 nonprofit corporation that administers Comcast local public access funding for the town. It is run by a 5-member board consisting of a chair, currently Bob Coleman, a vice chair, currently Dennis McGillicuddy, a treasurer, currently Doug Becker, and a clerk named Harry Zane, that would be me. At the present time, there is also a vacant seat on the board. Interested parties should contact us. APAC also has employees like the Executive Administrative Assistant to the board, Janet Giamo, Dave Malpignano, our Public Access Manager, Cheryl Robinson, our Community Liaison and Channel 99 Bulletin Board host, and finally, our Programming and Production Manager position, which is currently vacant. We also have other part-timers and volunteer members who use our broadcasting studio and equipment resources to create programming. Now about that APAC programming. Ayer residents who are Comcast subscribers can view APAC programs on channels 8, 9, and 99. All of this is funded through a contract negotiated every 10 years between the town of Ayer and Comcast Corporation. There is one thing that very few people understand about the Comcast-Ayer contract. It is that the contract covers television services only. It does not cover internet services, which Comcast provides directly to the customer, not through the cable television contract with the town. And just a reminder, all of APAC's programming and much more is always available on demand at www.ayerpac.org. But back to our feature stories. Here's another one about that railroad that runs through the middle of Ayer, and it's from our 20 Minutes reporter, Dennis McGillicuddy. Dennis has been working on a story about the extensive preparations that Ayer and other state and regional public safety departments make to ensure their readiness for a freight or passenger rail incident occurring on those rail lines that run right through our town. Dennis spent some time reporting at the Ayer Fire Department and at an actual training drill held right down on those Fitchburg line tracks we all know so well. Here's Dennis's story.
Small town in central Massachusetts lies a potential threat to the residents. You can't see it, touch it, or smell it, but you can hear it coming. The Federal Railroad Administration reports that over a 35-year period, the number of railroad collisions and casualties have decreased significantly. However, in 2009, the Boston and Maine Railroad, now called the Pan Am, paid a $500,000 fine for the largest diesel spill in Massachusetts history. These trains run parallel to Main Street in Ayer. Even though railroad safety has been improving, there are so many lines that intersect at Ayer that there is still potential for accidents or spills to occur. Because Ayer is a railroad town, there are countless railroad cars filled with dangerous materials, as well as thousands of passengers passing through each year. This presents significant readiness challenges to the Ayer Fire and Police departments, as well as for the other public safety departments in the area. So it was not surprising that the Mass DOT, Ayer, and other area emergency response organizations participated recently in a mock train accident staged near the Willow Road crossing.
The exercise was intended to give us the opportunity to practice some of the things that we don't get a lot of opportunities to try. We have a lot of railroad traffic in town. We're a pretty big hub as far as freight traffic goes. There's a pretty big set of tracks that most people don't know are there, right off of Main Street. And we have the commuter rail coming through every day. So this was just a the MBTA picked us out just because of the volume of traffic that's through here to be able to run the exercise, to give us an opportunity to, to go through the training and go through the motions of what would happen in an actual event. All the area fire departments participated, so you had Air Fire along with Littleton Fire, Shirley Fire, Groton Fire, Harvard, Harvard EMS, Harvard Fire covered the station for regular calls that day for us, Devon's Fire, Westford Fire, and Sterling Fire. We also had CMed, who's our radio operators from the ambulances to the hospitals in the area, participated. We had our regional trailer for EMS, as well as the MBTA Police, the B&M Police, Keolis, and Pan Am. So we ended up off of Willow Road, off of Berkshire, because it keeps us out of the way. But the actual exercise plan and the scenario everybody was given was supposed to mimic the crossing here, or the intersection of the freight line and the passenger trains on the main line right here on Main Street in front of the town hall. It was supposed to simulate a Pan Am freight coming through the switch and colliding with an MBTA commuter rail that was loaded. Certainly the way that the responder set up organizationally worked out for us. It allowed that incident to be cleared pretty rapidly. I think initially we had planned for about a 2-hour window. That morning they managed to complete it in about an hour and 45 minutes. So it was a little faster than we expected, and that was due to the organization and how well they were able to lay out what they had for resources. So certainly, just be aware of when you're near or traveling over the tracks, what you're doing. The trains are there. There is a set schedule for the MBTA, but not so much for the freight. So like we teach up in the SAFE program at the schools to the 5th graders, anytime is train time. So just when you're crossing the tracks, if the gates are coming down, they're coming down for a reason. So make sure you adhere to all the safety equipment. If the gates are down, you stop. Follow all the warning signs. But as far as preparedness for an actual incident, the town would utilize a tool, Code Red, to get that information out to the public if there was ever an incident. So certainly if you want to stay connected, you have the ability to go onto the town website, and on the emergency management page you can log in and sign up for the Code Red, and that will send out text or voicemails, phone calls to residents anytime there's an incident, letting them know where and what it is and what should be done or could be expected.
So as you can see, the air, fire, and police are practicing to respond to emergencies constantly and are finding ways to communicate with the residents and other communities to better serve you.
Thanks, Dennis, for that story, which surely will be of interest to commuters and residents alike. And finally this month, here's a little history quiz that will indicate how long or how little you have lived in Ayer. Alicia Hersey has a new segment on this show called Notably Ayer, and she's asking if you know where there's a ticket booth in Ayer. Watch her story to see if you really know your town's history.
Interesting information, fun facts, and curious history regarding our town, Ayer, Massachusetts. Did you know that Ayer used to have a movie theater? The town movie theater was known as the Ayer Playhouse. The Playhouse burnt in 1962, but the front ticket office was saved. Which building in the downtown was the ticket office for the old movie theater? The Ayer Unitarian Church was dedicated in 1875 and stood at the east side of Washington Street in the first block. In 1938, the church was converted to a movie theater. Later, a ticket office was added to the front of the church. The Playhouse was destroyed by fire early morning on April 1st, 1962, leaving only the front office intact. The Ayer Playhouse ticket office and the original office of Markham Priest Insurance Company still stands today at the corner of Washington and Newton Street.
Well, that's all for this 2018 edition of 20 Minutes. Just remember to visit us at www.ayerpac.org to see what else is coming from your local TV channels. Until next month, this is 20 Minutes Around Your Town.